My father had a 40-acre farm, but he was superintendent of schools. He wasn't a farmer, really. However, he sold a few things like strawberries and so on. I was always top as a picker because I lived right there and I knew where the best ones were. My mother was a person who never told her 9 children what to do and what not to do. And she said, I just pay attention to my inner voice, and since I wouldn't think of doing anything that somebody else tells me, how on earth could I be so unfair as to go around telling anybody else what to do? Thee follow thy inner voice, and I'll follow mine. My father was not as noticeable that way as my mother, but he also didn't interfere. My father said to me once, Ruth, it's good to think for yourself, but just once in a long time, couldn't you think like other people? And I asked him, like who? And he changed the subject. My mother never scolded. But she had tricks. She could protect herself. For instance, she loved to read. But in those days, you couldn't go to your bedroom and read in the wintertime because you didn't heat your bedroom, of course. And the only place you could read in the winter would be in the living room, which was warm. With 9 children, don't tell me that you could sit there and read for a few hours and not have some of the children come in and interrupt you, you see. But she had her little trick. She'd sit down to read, and she'd have a basin of very cold water right there by her side with a washcloth in it. And if any of us would come in to ask her something, she would just say, oh, come here, come closer, dear. I didn't hear what you said. What did you... Oh, honey, your face is dirty. Do you think we'd go nearer when that basin of water was there? No, indeed. What I feel I know for sure is do what you want to do and don't tell other people how to behave. To make rules for other people, I just don't get it. For instance, when I helped Carrie Nation smash saloons, that was a big thing. They shouldn't do that, you see. Well, now when I take a drink, I say, forgive me, Carrie Nation, I've got to have a little drink. Yes, I helped her smash saloons. Carrie Nation was a woman who lived in Kansas, and in Kansas it was against the law to sell liquor. And she went around to places and came to Topeka, where we lived. She would get a group of people together, mostly women, and they would go to a drugstore or someplace which was illegally selling liquor. By the way, I was 16 years old. It was in 1900. And this crowd of women gathered at the State House and then walked down the street. And, of course, the policeman knew Carrie Nation was in town, so they kind of followed us. And Carrie Nation went up to this drugstore, which she had found out was selling liquor illegally. And she smashed one of the big panes in front, and I went and smashed the other one. And the policeman came up and arrested Carrie Nation. And broke my heart. They didn't arrest me. I had to go home and go to Sunday school. There's nothing dull about gardening, I can tell you that. You saw the raccoon cage. Well, for raccoons, that outside fence doesn't do any good. They just get over that and then eat your corn. They don't eat anything else but corn. And I got so desperate trying to protect my corn that my brother built that cage for me. I don't know whether I told you how I finished one of my articles about the raccoons. I finished the article by saying, now, of course, the raccoons can't get my corn, but they're so smart that when they figure out how to go in there and open the door and go and eat my corn, I'm just going to go back to the house, get on the couch, drink 2 daiquiris instead of 1, and forget it all. Really.
Why did you give him a key?
That's right. Why didn't I? Here you'll see a little row of lettuce, and here's a row of carrots. It isn't acting quite normal, but who's normal, huh? Now, the sweet Spanish onions are doing very nicely. And that little potato, well, it just came up, and we'll let it stay there. Why not? And what's that? Another potato that just jumped there. Let it alone. What the devil is this? That's a weed. Out with it. It's fantastic what you can do growing your own things. It really is. And my rhubarb is just, well, I say to everybody, if you want a rhubarb root, please tell me, because I've got to get rid of some of it. It spreads and grows. Now, I don't know how many people are interested in soybeans, but they are full of protein, as I guess we know. But almost nobody grows soybeans, because if you go and buy soybeans in a market, they don't taste very good. But if you grow your own soybeans, they are absolutely delicious. I've had 7,000 people from every state in Canada to come and look at the garden. I keep a book where they write their names, you see. I'll tell you right now, my husband has been dead for 15 years, and living alone like this, I don't know what on earth I would do if I didn't have this garden thing to write about, to help people with, to talk to garden clubs. I don't know how I could feel that I was doing anything that made it necessary for me to stay alive. I don't lecture a garden club. I talk maybe for 5 minutes, and then it's open to questions. It's not a talk, it's a conversation. I don't think I could have gone through it year after year, getting up, yap, 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 you know, trying to say the same old thing over and over. And they ask me what I charge. I say, whatever you give your most highly paid speaker. That sounds conceited, but it is because I found out that they give the highest amount to people who tell you how to put flowers in a vase, and I've got something more important to tell you than that.
That's an art in Japan.
What, dear?
Flower arranging is an art in Japan.
In Japan. Well, it would never, never occur to me to tell any other grown human being how to put some flowers in a vase. This is so good. I bet you're an awfully good cook, are you? This is so good. These are awfully good. This is delicious. Well, when I'm invited out to lunch, I never eat a bite of breakfast. When I'm invited out to dinner, I never eat a bite of lunch. I like to be nice and hungry.
Would like more wine.
Not too much. Thank you. That's fine.
I think we're all going to get a little high on this wine.
I'm a little high already. Did I tell you that I was 45 years old when I found out that people actually behaved the way somebody else told them to, like Emily Post? When Fred told me that Emily Post had written a whole book about it, well, I couldn't wait to read. I got hold of that book right away, and here I read this book. Do this, do this, do this, do this, don't do this. And I couldn't believe it. Behaving properly, for heaven's sake. This woman down the road, a very rich woman, invited me to a formal dinner party. You know, RSVP and wear so-and-so. What do they call it? Black tie or something like that. I wrote her back. I liked her, but I said, I'm sorry I can't come to your party, because if I did, I would embarrass you. I wouldn't know how to behave. I wouldn't know what to wear. I would do all the wrong things, and you would be upset, and I thought that would finish me with her. And the next day, somebody knocked on the door, and here was one of her servants with a great big bunch of beautiful flowers for me, so at least it didn't make her mad. She's nice. I've been there a few times since, but not to a formal party, for heaven's sake. Huh? I couldn't go to a formal party. I loved my husband very, very much. I really mean it when I say that I'm sure that he is the only man in the world who could have stood staying married to me, because I always was out of order. I mean, the things I did, I would go down there to garden, and the minute I got down there, I would take off all my clothes and garden naked. I've always loved the air on my body. And I never said a word to Fred about it one way or the other. It never occurred to me to mention it to him. And I came back every evening around 5 o'clock and put my clothes on before I came back. And one day I came back at 6. And Fred was out in the barn doing his stuff. He made all these wooden things and so on. And shortly after I got in, he came in and he said, "Oh, you worked longer today, didn't you?" I said, "But how did you know?" I was just curious how he happened to know. And he said, "It was easy. As a rule, as the cars go along the road, after 5 o'clock, they just go on. But up until 5 o'clock, they kind of go very slowly, and then you look down where you're gardening." So I knew that you didn't come up until 6, because up until 6, they still stopped. I just am by nature an optimist. The pleasant idea comes instead of the depressing one. I couldn't admire anybody any more than I admired my grandfather. He always knew exactly the right thing to do and to say with everybody. I don't mean correct thing, of course. I mean the helpful thing. My oldest brother had a dog that he was crazy about, and the dog died. My 2 oldest brothers were out where I could see them from the window burying the dog, and the tears were rolling down my cheeks because I was sorry for my brother. And my grandfather came in the room, and he saw what was going on, and he said, "Oh, come here, Ruth, I want to show you something." He took me over to the other side of the room, and he said, "Here's the rose bush that you planted yourself, and look, it has a flower on it. You can go out and pick a flower off of your own rose bush." I started out, and he put his arm around me, and he said, "Thee was looking out of the wrong window, dear."